Monday Ramble.
Hello and welcome to the latest Monday Ramble, a very special Monday Ramble this week as I'm joined by my father, Stephen Bull. Dad, lovely to have you here.
Is it lovely to be here? I'm not sure.
I think it is. Now, let's just start with a big context, because obviously you've been a huge fan of racing for a number of years now, and are the reason, really, why I got involved in the sport in the first place, along with my godfather Graham, who had a breeding operation and loves his racing too. But really, it's all about you and your racing, how I got involved, reading the form in the kitchen. Talk a little bit about your kind of context and how you got into it yourself.
Well, it was a bit accidental, actually, but without wanting to ring any withers of anybody out there, it was getting involved in racing was a kind of displacement activity for me because I had just decided to leave my first wife. And, in fact, just immersing myself in the daily form and all the activity that was going on. Yeah. Obviously, I had got a bit of grounding from my breeding friend, and it just went on from there, really. I found it a fantastically good switch-off. You could just immerse yourself in all the colours and all the jocks, find out exactly why horses ran as they were supposed to run anyway. And I found the whole kind of puzzle of working out form and also the generally colourful nature of racing. You know, the fact that, to use the old phrase, you know, it's a sport which goes from knobs to slobs. And it seemed to be pretty democratic, actually, even though it's, you know, the top of it is full of aristocrats. I found the whole thing fascinating. Colourful and quirky, and as soon as I got sort of more interested in it, you know, one thing leads to another, and you start reading books about the colourful characters in the past and the conspiracies to pull off great betting coups. You know, the story of the original Eclipse, you know, used to run over 5 miles. And altogether it was pretty fascinating, so it went on from there, really.
Lovely stuff. And obviously, talking of betting coups, all of us have had an unlucky story in our life, but I know that you had a very, very unlucky one where you were going to place a tricast, I believe, which would have won you about £10,000, I think. But talk us through that.
Yeah, this is in early days, actually, and I remember taking £30 in crisp new fivers out of the ATM machine on my way to the law courts, actually, where I was about to try and get an injunction against my then landlord, who would try to close me out of my new restaurant premises in London. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I placed this tricast. It was obviously a £5 tricast on 3 horses. I can remember them now. This is, well, back in, I don't know, 1980 something or other. It was Sutowski, Pink Tartar, and Burkhan they were, and they all loved very, very heavy, soft ground. They were running in a handicap at Newmarket. Anyway, I couldn't get my bet on, didn't have a betting account on those days, and because I had my injunction supposedly in the morning of the law courts, I thought there'd be plenty of time to go out and put the money down when we'd got our injunction, all being well, which was, incidentally, in front of somebody called Mr. Justice Judge, i.e. Judge, which seemed rather bizarre at the time. Anyway, 12 o'clock came and went, 1 o'clock came and went, 2 o'clock came and went, the race was at 3:15. I thought, oh dear, I can't make a bet on the phone. Wasn't able to do that then. And indeed, the time for the injunction came, and it was 4 o'clock. The race had gone. And at 4:15, I was out of the law courts, and I thought, I know what I'm going to see when I find myself a betting shop, which was the Third Ladbrokes, not very far away, and there they were. 1, 2, 3. I can't remember what order they were in, actually, but it didn't really matter, because the tricast paid £1,981 to a pound.
Ouch.
And at the time, because this was just post divorce, it would have been really very important, as I was about to start my first restaurant in London. And in fact, we turned up at my restaurant premises with my 4 other backers, only to find that the locks had been changed, and the landlord had tried to lock us out, which is why we went to the law courts in the first place. So anyway, that added insult to injury, really, because that 10 grand would have been very important at that time in my life. And of course, I've never been able to do a tricast since, and that's over 30 years ago.
Well, I can tell you it definitely still stings because I hear about that nearly every month of my entire life. So
it'll never go away.
Let's talk about the Grand National, because obviously such a shame that Tiger Royal can't go for this third straight victory this year. The first time it's been called off properly, really, since the Second World War. I know you're a huge fan of the Grand National. Some of your biggest wins have come in that race. Mini Homer, I think, was one. Papillon was another one.
Yeah.
In your opinion, how much does this kind of change the scene of racing for this jump season? I mean, it's always come at the end of the season. It's one of the biggest races. Everyone looks forward to it. It's the race that stops the nation, isn't it? How do you think that affects the season just in general?
Well, obviously in itself is mightily disappointing. I mean, it is my favourite race, and it acts as a sort of climax. I know it's not the last big race, which of course is the 365 Gold Cup, which is, and I'm personally, I mean, I'm a huge fan of these very big handicaps, and the more runners, the better, because you tend to get much better odds, and quite often the bookmakers have got the they've. It's not really the bookmakers so much, is it? It's the punters who have decided to go with certain horses, and they're not always right, of course. And so the odds quite often get skewed, especially if there's a hot favourite, as there would be this time, and has been last year with Tiger Roll. I mean, my fancy this year would have been for Walk in the Mill. And also there's another horse who, funnily enough, is trained only 5 miles from where we're sitting by Tom Lacey, called Kimberlite Candy, and he's got a pretty good chance as well. But so there was quite a lot to look forward to, really, apart from the fact that the race itself, provides hours and hours of innocent fun, pouring over the form. And I don't mean getting involved in chat rooms and all that, because they tend to be full of people who really have got the first idea what they're talking about, it seems to me. But there's always Mount Valley to be had in these big handicaps, and of course the Grand National is the biggest.
Love it.